I'm just reading the reply. Let's go. Right, good afternoon everybody and welcome to the council meeting of May 2025. Welcome to Councillor Colette who joins us on Zoom today, and to the members of the public that have tuned into the meeting, and thank you everybody for your presence. We will get the meeting underway, being that it's now 1:01 p.m. With the karakia. And no doubt that'll be left to me to do. Everybody's looking at these screens. Kia hora, te warino, kia whakapapa pūnanu te moana. Hei hururei mā tātou, e te rangi nei, araha atu, araha mai, tātou ie, tātou katoa. Hui e, taikie. Now moving into apologies, we have no apologies today. We are at the full house. So we have nothing to cover there. Declarations of interest, please ensure as always that these are kept up to date, and also if there's anything on the agenda for today's meeting that is a conflict of interest, if you can also ensure that is declared preferably ahead of the meeting, but at the meeting will still be accepted. Urgent items on the agenda. We have the administrative resolution warrant of appointment for Jason Warden and Indonesia Esquires for noise control officers. And also, so first off we'll cover that one. So I'm after a mover and a seconder so that we can resolve that in accordance with section 46A(7) of Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act and under section 9.12 of Council's adopted standing orders, the following item be added as an agenda item not on the agenda for Council's consideration. The second one that needs to be, the reason why the discussion of the item can't be delayed until a subsequent meeting is that the contractors need to be able to carry out their charge of noise control. So can I have a mover and a seconder for that one, please? Councillor Baird, thank you very much. Councillor Burden, all in favour to that? Carried, thank you. And the second one that needs to be addressed today is the resolution in accordance with the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act and section 9.12 of Council's adopted standing orders. The following item be added as an urgent item not on the agenda for Council's consideration, and that is the proposed property sale of land and building, which is brought to us by Destination Westland. The reason the item is not on the agenda is the report was not approved in time to enable it to be added to the agenda. And the reason why the discussion of the item cannot be delayed until a subsequent meeting is that the sale of the property, Destination Westland desire to get their property sold, to which the funds created from that will be put into debt reduction. Can I have a mover and seconder please for that? Councillor Neil, thank you. Councillor Casson, all in favour? Carried, thank you very much everybody. So moving on from there, item 5 on the agenda is minutes of meetings. First off, we have the ordinary council meeting minutes of 17 April 2025. The resolution is that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on 17th April be confirmed as a true and correct record of the meeting. Can I have a mover and seconder please? Councillor Beard, I'll take questions in a minute. Councillor Manera, thank you. And I approve that my digital signature be added to the confirmed ordinary council meeting minutes of 17 April 2025. Are there any points to be raised regarding those minutes?
The accuracy.
The accuracy. So there is a...
Well, it's been there about self and council left the meeting in 3 weeks to come back. Councillor Davidson left twice. That was mixed up.
Okay, so that's an administrative edit or correction that we will make on that one and note it on that, and thank you for pointing that out. The next meeting, extraordinary meeting of the council, extraordinary council meeting minutes, sorry, of 22nd of May 2025. The resolution is that the minutes of the extraordinary council meeting held on 22 May 2025 be confirmed as a true and correct record of the meeting. Again, I'm going to remove the second for that, please.
Sorry, first I'd like to just move by way of amendment, Helen, that my comments that you had said on page 8, it did say, as part of the CCO Oversight Committee meeting, it did say CCO Review Workshop. Thank you.
CCO. Okay, we've got that amendment. So we have that recorded. Everybody happy with that? Okay, can I have a move and a seconder, please? That with that amendment, that we accept it as a true and correct record. Councillor Beard. Councillor Byrne. Thank you. All in favour?
Aye.
And again, I approve that my digital signature be added to the confirmed extraordinary council meeting minutes on 22 May 2025. Minutes to be received from the standing committees. First one being the inaugural Council Controlled Organisation Oversight Committee meeting of 29 January 2025, and I am after a move and a second, please, so that we may resolve that they be confirmed as a true and correct record of the meeting. For those that were present at the meeting, is that true? Yep, Councillor Casson, thank you very much. Okay, thank you, Councillor Beard. For those that were present, all in agreement? Thank you. The second one is the Risk and Assurance Committee meeting, and again the resolution is that the minutes of the Risk and Assurance Committee meeting be confirmed as a true and correct record of the meeting. Yeah. Councillor Beard, sorry. Councillor Neil, I'll be relying on you for that one.
I will get that.
Debris, sorry. Who was present at that meeting? Yeah. It should be just receiving. It shouldn't be actually confirming them as a true and correct record. That is done at that meeting. Yeah. It should be that we receive these minutes. Thank you, Councillor Neil. So that's the seconder that we receive, and we'll change the wording to say that we are receiving them as opposed to confirming. Thank you very much for that. Lovely. Right, next on is the action list, and Barb, if you could please speak to this.
And apologies, it appears that the action list that you received is last month's, but that's fine. I'll walk my way through it. I apologise. I'll walk my way through it and we can update as we go. So the first item, which is the council headquarters 36 World Street, we committed to putting a paper to the council on some options. That paper, stage 1 paper, is at the council today and will be discussed today. And we can talk about next steps from there at that item. The Hokitika Museum Trust Board formation, I believe the Mayor has actually started to convene a working group around the Museum Trust Board and how that will be framed up to bring back to council. I don't have a forward date for that, but I believe it's being scheduled.
Yes, it is correct. And you will be receiving that meeting scheduled. Right, yes.
Item 3, which is outdated, that can be removed, was the Department of Conservation feral cat discussion that we had at the last meeting, so that will be removed out of the next action list. Hokitika CBD strategy, just an update on that. That group has been reconvened. We have put in place a project manager for that group, and a date for the first meeting is, I believe, next Wednesday. So that would be the first meeting of the new group that will be brought together to energise. Conception compliance. Do you want to ask that? Or sorry, would you like to ask now?
Who was the project manager?
Lucretia from the eyesight. We've asked her to project manager for us. There's a technical team that will be sitting there. I'm happy to circulate where you were into. I'll circulate that after this meeting if that's useful. And have you had a conversation with your tutor secretly?
That's coming up with the meeting, schedule as well, invite, yes.
Item 5, consent and compliance committee terms of reference, that's on today's agenda, for an item on today's agenda to be discussed, terms of reference. Waste management and minimisation plan, I don't believe that that was adopted at the last meeting. That's committed this meeting. Thank you. Wilderness Trail, item 7, there was a meeting held this week and I believe Councillor agreed to be the chair of the working group going forward, and then there will be a meeting called, I'm not sure of the date.
We have a sub-meeting next week.
Perfect. The scope of work for Hokitika Airport, item 8, is on the agenda today, and is the council briefing. So item 8 and 9 could be put together as one item for the briefing on the airport today. Item 10 can be removed. Those letters of expectations obviously were undertaken, and then 11 and 12 were around the long-term plan, which, as you know, you've progressed through the council. Thank you. Is there any other questions that anyone would like to ask on those items? Thank you.
Thanks, Barb. Any questions, points of clarification on that? No? Then I'll ask a record of seconder, please, that we may resolve that the updated action list from the Chief Executive be received and those items completed be removed from the list. Move to second, Councillor Burden, Councillor Davidson, thank you very much. All in favour? Against? Sorry, Stephen, that's in favour, thank you. Presentations for today, we have none, so we will then move on to the financial performance report for April 2025. Asking Leslie, Group Manager Corporate Services, and Lily Truman, Finance Manager, to speak to this report, please. Welcome, ladies.
Good afternoon, Your Worship, Councillors. Through Your Worship, I present the financial report for April 2025. I'll take it as read. I will not repeat comments in the report on the current situation or comments I've made in the past. I'll just mention that our focus in April was very much on the forecast and our expected year-end result. To that end, my team and I spent some time with activity managers reviewing their expectations of where their activity costs would be by year end. So this is based on what was known at the time of that preparation. There are other adjustments that we may have to make at year end. Well, we generally make it year end. And there are possible impacts that we are not aware of at this point. For example, last year's annual report included a $6.1 million impairment on Jackson River Road due to weather events, so that sort of thing we cannot forecast in our report. We're also putting in place future developments around forecasting, in particular processes to make forecasting of the NZTA costs and cost recoveries much smoother and easier to understand for all of us. So, I'll now, through Your Worship, take any questions.
Right. Questions, Councillor Cassel, through to you first.
Lily, thanks for working the team have done in the last month to bring us close to a position of confidence around where we're going to sit for the year end. You alluded to a couple more uncertainties in the next month. How confident are we the position is not going to get worse in the next month before we get there?
As confident as I can be with what I know at the present point in time. So there are always the year-end adjustments around items such as our diamond swaps, and it's market-driven. I expect it to be around what we've forecast. I think we are all working to have an improved forecast on that. but it is subject to those inevitable year-end adjustments.
Sorry, through the chair. Just, Lily, thank you. Just in terms of clarity, because I recognise just trying to balance off where we're here. As you can see, we do have a deficit that has been monitored as 3.11 billion for the April month. We did expect fluctuations across months, and that's not unusual. But can I just draw your attention to the full year forecast, which Leslie and Lily are referring to, which is actually currently a deficit of 1109. So if you look at the statement of comprehensive review revenue and expenditure, you will see that that's been forecast. And I think that's where Lily was referring to the fact that the activity managers have spent time working through a detailed account for activity going forward, which obviously adjusts itself. And some of the processes that we've put in place to drive to the year end has been around managers, group managers, etc., looking at data, looking at expenditure for the next 2 financial months, and making sure that we keep a tight control going forward. So, sorry, just to give that clarity, because those figures are sitting in that next paper.
And it's a very good line because it's very clear and it's linked into current figures and where you're expecting us to be. If I can jump in with a question then too, Linda and Leslie, please, is that knowing that there is monies to come in via subsidies, grants or whatever, and that we're still looking at a deficit of 1.1, what steps are we putting in place to manage this or prevent this not coming back to that figure?
When you consider that including it in that deficit at that point is almost $1 million in the hedging instrument of our swaps, there is not a lot we can do about the valuation of swaps because that is subject to market forces. But apart from that, I believe budget managers are well aware of what their budget is. They set the budgets, they know what they should be achieving at the year end.
Just bearing in mind that what the swap does, it doesn't impact rates at all. It's not a rateable accounting entry. It's an entry we have to put in there to accounting standards. It doesn't impact cash unless we were to actually settle it before maturity, and then there would be an impact on cash. As it stands, if it goes to maturity, it just disappears. And I don't know if you know that we use these hedging swaps to fix the interest rate because we have floating rate loans, and what a hedging instrument does is to actually fix at a rate the interest that we will pay, and it's better for budgeting, and it means we know what our interest costs are.
Stephen, that's Glenn.
Yeah, through your worship. So just can you clarify what the actual cash deficit will be at the end of the period?
The cash.
Yes, because the current deficit would include the loss on swaps.
Not in cash, it won't, no. And it is something I'm working on at the moment, is to have a clearer indication of what our balance sheet will be at year end for the LTP process. I have a feeling our cash position will not be much different from last year, which was around, I think, 5.5 million at June.
Just to clarify, the hedging swap, the instruments, don't have an impact on cash unless we were to settle early. So it will just mature and it's gone. No impact on cash at that point in time. No impact on rates. The accounting entry that we have to put in our accounts under accounting standards because we have them. And it
Yeah, but the
this point in time, if we were to settle that is what we would pay.
so the projected deficit though does include these non-cash losses on swaps.
Yes, it does.
It does, yeah.
So if you take those out, what is the real operating deficit going to be? Helen's talking about 1.3 million, so what will it be projected if you take out the swaps?
1.1.
It's yes, it's 1.1, so it's only 100K roughly
Yeah.
at this point.
Sorry, councillor Kessler.
Page 52, capital expenditure, there's been a $750,000 expense as facilities and media services dash other. Could somebody confirm what that's attributed to, please?
I would have to refer to DA on that because I don't have the full detailed capital report in front of me.
Very good.
I'm not sure, Earl, whether you would be aware of what that particular one is.
I have to get back to you on that.
If you could, please, Anne, thank you. And for complete clarity from what Barb said, we're looking at 1.3 year end,
We're looking at
1.1,
1.09.
and we're currently at 3.1. So we're somehow going to pull back $2 million of deficit in the next 2 months. Is that what I'm hearing? And we're confident we're sitting towards that?
That is what we are aiming to do, and that is the timing around grants, etc.
Thank you. And I assume most of that's the 2.35 million attributed to NZTA. Thank you.
Any more questions on the report, please?
Through the chair, I just wondered, just to give people a sense of what we're doing for the next 2 months, to try and move the 1.1 deficit with a view that optimistically that we will be bringing that back as far as we can. Things that have been undertaken to date is that all of the group managers are spoken to and we'll be looking at vacancies and returning to look at we hold until the end of financial years, incurring additional costs we don't need to. They're managing that proactively, as Lily said, they're aware of the obligations at council level, so they're looking at that. We also looked at, with money and more current process with the CE and an ability to have that more frequently over the next 2 months. So we can just keep tracking and we're fine with that. And we will be looking at an improved forecasting and communications process going forward, and certainly for the next financial year, so that we adhere to our no surprises policy for you folk going forward. The reporting currently is very deep, but it doesn't always easily tell us what we need to know going forward. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Is there any further? No, Councillor Leal, sorry.
Thank you. So by making some savings in the next month, is that going to lead to a difference of the next year? Not just pushing them out 1 month? No, because I think in terms of our forecasting going forward and setting with the budget going forward for the next financial year, I've asked that Leslie and Lily so they can revisit that formulas used in the reset. We're currently sitting with the LTP process, so we're just making sure that we're all lined up so that we won't be facing a deficit at the start of the next financial year.
It's a comment really, and it could be just me, but sometimes I just find it, I look at it and I just get confused. So I don't know if there's an easier way of reporting or things more in simpler layman's terms or something, but
I believe that's
it's
what
just a comment.
we have certain reporting requirements as far as the annual report is concerned, etc. But I believe this is what Barbara's alluding to, is having a report that is more easily read and understood.
Well, I know when I first looked at that report of 5.76 million variance and things like that, and I thought, oh, what's happening here? You know, so just, yeah, I don't know. Just weird.
It is an improvement on the past though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think the main thing is too is that we're aware, and as these shortfalls arise, or there's the awareness that they may arise, that Barbara's chief executive is notified, and we're also brought to attention too, and we also know what processes are being put in place to mitigate that going forward, as opposed to getting to a period of time where the horse is already bolted. So as much as it's a report that's a little bit, weighty, yeah, we really need to get the NZTA funding back in and that level set. And it is an ongoing situation between grants, subsidies and NZTA, where forever seem to be waiting to play catch up with what's due versus what we're committed to going out.
Through the chair, I think that there's a level of transparency that we can do that actually, because we all know ratepayers are considerably concerned when they see deficits put into the books, and rightly so, because they have an expectation that we are managing and being good stewards of those budgets going forward. So I think when we look at the report, we'll be looking at making sure there is a real transparency, so it's a no surprises, and probably make it so that it's more easily understood for the lay people who just see the headlines of the budget reports, not necessarily, and that's for all of us, not necessarily within the council, but also outside the council, so that we don't cause undue concern by putting up figures that people don't truly understand what they are. It's very concerning if you look at the monthly one without having the context. So I just want to make that really clear for folk. We will be striving to do better with that. Thank you.
Good. Thank you very much. All right, anything? Sorry, Councillor Colette, sorry, next time.
Sorry, through the chair, just clarification. So there's no risk with any of that outstanding NZTA money. The monies that are owed will be fully paid, because I think some time ago there was confusion as to, or not clarity as to what we may or may not receive from NZTA going forward.
I can answer that. Through the chair, yes, that is confirmed. The subsidy regime changed a while back, but we've adjusted the figures and items to match that.
We have just a little more clarity on that. We have adjusted our forecast accordingly, but obviously the budget was set before, which is why we have this disparity in the current year.
Yeah, I just see that in if I look at the last few months of financial reports that have been tabled at council, we've been running a continual deficit. So issues to do with timing kind of don't make sense to me. I just want to have some surety that we will be catching up and this running deficit will be tidied up.
There are all the time differences, especially around we don't get the funding through from NZTA until we actually put a claim in, and that is usually has to be done the month afterwards. So there's always timing differences, and finance themselves don't know what work has been carried out, so we can't provide for that in any forecast unless we're actually know what that claim is going to be or what work has been carried out. So there's always going to be time differences. It's a matter of course with financial information.
Thank you.
Right, anything further, please? Councillor Kesson, thank you.
Page 50, rates debtors, the 669% spike in rates debtors attributed to payment terms on the fourth instalment. Do we see that spike every quarter, or is that excessively large?
You will see that spike, and I noted it. It says arrears. April was the month when we actually invoiced So a lot of that is actually current. And of course, our rates this year were a lot higher than last year.
We should see that clean up in next
Yes,
month's,
it will.
or the spike
It
should
will.
reverse. Thank you.
Anything further, please, for the ladies? Stephen, you quite happy with where that's at?
I'm okay right now, thank you.
Okay. Right, so can I have a move on second, please, resolve that the financial performance report for 30 April 2025 be received? Councillor Neil, thank you very much. Councillor Davison, thank you very much. All in favour?
Aye.
Yep. Thank you, everybody, for that. Right, now we move on to the Regional Infrastructure Fund. Okay. Which Earl's going to present on it regarding the Hokitika Airport upgrade.
Sorry, through the chair, councillor Gillette raised a few comments ahead of this paper that he thought might be helpful for colleagues to have covered. And I think the Mayor was just going to speak to those so that it gives you a bit more context when Earl goes through the paper.
Can you hear that? Yeah. Okay, so you have received the questions from Councillor Gillette. So one of them was on how accurate is the $16.4 million budget for this project. And he has commented that the initial discussions on what this upgrade would cost seemed a lot higher. So who costed this? When we first started the project, we looked at different scenarios, and the maximum scenario was a maximum airport runway extension, and we were up into the 50+ million with that. We came back, I think, with a revised into the 20 something, and then we settled on this 16.4 because we had more confidence that we could actually potentially get this across the line. So with that, the budgets were done based on the rationale at the time as far as costings, contractors that got out and did that. We also used the experience of Alan McGibbon, who had managed the airport extension and improvement work at the Chatham Islands. He was employed to do that, so we had the benefit of costings involved with that because it was similar work, and we could add the CPI into that to get us up to where we were today. And as far as that goes also is that when we were putting the project together, we did build in a contingency to allow for an overrun of costs.
Yes, through the chair. Yes, we allowed, as per usual, we're contracted to allow a contingency because it's a long way working off from when we put the application in, work through what we actually required to when the funding comes in, so you had to allow for inflation. There's also, we hadn't engineering, we scoped the works and with any accuracy, any tight accuracy, because we are aware of the conditions on site. So we've allowed contingency to cover that. We've allowed for engineering works. As far as I'm concerned, we've more than allowed enough to
And I think the other question that Stephen raised was the significance, which was covered in section 7, and he's commented on that it'd be good to get clarity on who actually owns the airport, as this may affect future management discussions. And we've got a few of those things to iron out, Stephen, as far as the whole CCO review, as far as ownership versus management versus all the other components that sit within that, and that's something that we need to bring back to council and look at going forward. So
I can confirm that the Western District Council hold the title.
So with that, Earl, if you'd like to proceed into the report, just to
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll take the report as read, and questions I handed out a brief project update to councillors, sorry, members of the public, that was on the press. Then you should have those now, I think. Yeah, and I'll accept questions. Yes.
Through the chair, Earl, great project, great report, great having these regular updates, it'll be great. My only one concern is around that if there is a cost overrun on this project, who is actually responsible for that? Because we've sat here on many projects that have been undertaken and had to reallocate funding or approve unbudgeted expenditure to tidy up cost overruns with projects in the past. So who is ultimately responsible? That's what I'd like to know.
If there is a cost overrun, it will be council that will be responsible. But in saying that, as well as the contingency funding that we put in there, which is $2 million, we can also trim what's actually delivered on the project back to save funding if that becomes an issue. The main items that really are required are the safety lighting and the surfacing of the runway. Now, the surfacing of the runway is projected to be around $10 million. So that's, 2/3 of the funding. Lighting is around about $500,000 to $1 million. The rest of the ancillary works are electrical upgrades at the airport itself for emergency services and earthworks at either end. And not expecting any cost overruns here. We can trim some of those items back.
Thank you.
That was the first half of my question, great response. The construction period starts in October when we start getting busy with tourists and progresses through way past March, April when tourism is still busy. What surety have we got around day-to-day operation of our airport and activities on
that will be part of when we instigate a contract, be part of their project brief to make sure that they have the runway open for operations under normal conditions. The assistant that I've got with me, Alan, the runner will be overseeing the project, has had experience at the Chatham Islands of doing exactly this work on the live airport. So we're pretty confident that we can handle it with only two.
Zero impact to scheduled services. Next part around, I guess, the one for Alan, around ambulance and those sort of, I guess, not scheduled services. If they need to come in, the ability for planes to still land and do those sort of things. Obviously, hard to, you're not living in a house during its build, but how do you sort of maintain that, or how can you?
Well, all we can do is assess the risk and make sure that the runway is fit for landing at the end of every work period.
Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Wilson.
Just on the lighting, I take it there's a requirement for lighting.
Yes.
And you have a design that you're working to?
Yes, standard aviation design for those, and particularly around the patch, which is the pilot operated landing lights that the airport's going to be operating in the future, which means they can turn the lights on remotely, which means airport staff don't have to go down and switch on all the lights, etc. at night time, so the pilot can do it from 20 kilometres out.
Okay. So that's, is there any options on the lighting, or is it just an option?
Well, no, there's a couple of options. There's a hard light option that you put into the mains, or there's a solar power option, which we're actually looking at, which is quite beneficial for operational services, for repairs and for savings.
So which ones are you looking for?
Yeah, the design is not finalised on it.
Okay. Around about $1 million.
Through your worship. What will the increase in capacity actually look like? We've got 100 arrivals, 100 departures a day, is that right? We've got 2 planes, 250-seater planes arriving and 250-seater planes departing each day at the moment. So what's the increased capacity going to look like?
The increased capacity is not around, well, there's the ability to have more flights if the aviation industry wants to. The capacity, if we extend the landing and takeoff length, which is the braking field, we can't extend the actual runway itself because that triggers a RESA requirement, which means instead of going the same as what Wellington Airport have, instead of, if we put an extra metre on the official runway, we'll have to go at least 250 metres further out to break the airport, so we can't do that. What we can do is extend the braking and turning areas at either end, which is what it's programmed to do. So, it gives you an additional takeoff area, which is probably 2 to 3 passengers on each plane. That's the hope.
So we'll have, for $16 million, we'll get about an extra 6 passengers in and out a day.
No, it's not about, but it's a resilience project. It's not a.
And it's about the planes.
Yeah, and it's not quite just on that bums on seats, because the other thing is with this airport, like Queenstown, the pilots have to have additional safety training to land and fly out of here, because at the moment the runway is sitting at 1,115 metres, which is below the required length for proper safe takeoff and landing points. This extension takes to 1360, which then makes it a safer runway for the planes. What it does also mean is that the ATR 72s can come in at full capacity, whereas at the moment they can't. They can only travel with 72 seats with about 56, 58 seats, or they can load up with freight to make that difference as well. And it also makes us a bit more appealing for any future addition to flights that Air New Zealand may put in. But as far as that goes overall, it gives us a safety tool. It means the ATRs can be used if the need be more often, because at the moment they're only a weekend, 1 day, 2 days, but 1 flight per day. And also for resilience, it means that should we have any natural disaster here, we can also have the Air Force planes come in and out safely laden with whatever they need to bring in. So there was a resilience factor, a fairly strong one in this that was put to the government, because that is a concern of theirs for the coast. So it wasn't just about bums on seats or more bums on seats.
It's just I'm aware that sort of owning this airport is already effectively costing us more money than it's making it. If you look at the airport company itself, it only gets about 30% of its revenue from the landing fees from aviation. It makes more money as a landlord with rentals. It makes about half as much just on selling gravel out of that quarry. And so we are, at the moment, not making money out of the airport, cross-subsidising it with other parts of our CCO, so it's presenting a cost to the ratepayer. And I'm aware that if we did the bare minimum, it would cost about $2.5 million, if I'm not mistaken, for the resealing and for the rising.
That runway is well out of spec. It's got GOEs in it, and that needs an upgrade, which would be the minimum about that $10 million.
Which suggests to me that a relatively modest amount of infrastructure, compared to what we're aspiring to with the $16 million, is already something that we're struggling to maintain with the cash flow that the airport generates. Now, if we're not actually going to be increasing the number of tickets that we're selling to people, we're going to have effectively a bigger asset or liability to maintain. So as that depreciates in the future, what's going to fund that depreciation? Is it going to have to be another grant from the government 20 years from now? Is it going to be increases in rates if the airport company comes back to us and says, oh, actually, it turns out the asset's been run down because we weren't generating enough money out of the airport to actually maintain it? Even though we're getting given $16 million, I worry that we're actually just spending it on something that's going to prove to be a liability in the long run.
How do you measure that against the economic return that the plane brings into us?
Well, I think you would have to assume that the economic return is overstated if we're only generating. I mean, we're effectively paying the chief executive of Destination Westland more than we're getting in landing fees by actually selling flights through the airport. I just don't know that this airport is actually commercially viable. And you could make an argument from a resilience point of view in terms of having to helicopter people out, but that might look like just a basic runway or aerodrome like they have in Greymouth. I mean, there's a reason we're not building an airport in Warraroa or Hearts, because it just wouldn't stack up. And I think this, while it's not so demonstrably obvious, to me is more of a marginal decision, and I'm not actually sure, even if we're being given quote unquote money, I don't know that that makes it a prudent investment. People got cheap money from banks a few years ago and now own houses that are worth less than what their mortgage outstanding balance actually is. You could over-invest in something that's not actually a good idea.
No, I think the other aspects, I don't disagree with what you're saying, Patrick, but the other aspect of this is who come on these flights. You know, we got doctors and we got people from the dairy factory, so that the people that come on these flights actually, I guess, assist with the economic development on the coast.
It opens the door, doesn't it?
So no flights in here, we won't get in. We won't get in. I 100% agree what you're saying. Are we setting ourselves up for a failure? But if we look at it purely on a commercial basis, we wouldn't do it. But it's bigger than purely a commercial basis. It's economic, it's resilience, it's health, it's education, it's economic development for the dairy factory. So how do we monetize? How do we get that number? How do we apply that number to what you're saying?
To me, intuitively there, I feel like our ratepayers are subsidising ELED. Like, realistically, if people who are servicing the dairy factory want to, I know that they're sort of gilded classes over in Christchurch and flies in and out when it suits them. Now, if they wish to have the convenience of flying in and out, why don't they just pay $50 more a ticket or something like that?
Well, okay, if you go that way, then why bother having the dairy factory?
We're getting off the beaten track.
So it's 6 of one, half does the other. Yeah, it's not just economics. It's it's the community, it's.
But it is economics, because we're making a conscious decision about how we allocate resources.
Right, we're going to go around in circles with this discussion,
Yeah.
and we are. So, but yeah, Francois quite right. It's a multitude of gains that it brings into us. Yeah, Paul, you had a comment?
Yeah, I'm not on don't agree, I disagree, I actually think wrong. Grania would dearly love to have this airport, but they don't have it, so no particular, and it is one of the biggest assets the West Coast has. And here we are, we've got $1,600, and for once it's free. And there are no strings attached to this one.
No, but there are strings attached, because that runway is going
Come
right
on,
down.
we're not here to, excuse me, gentlemen, we're not here to debate whether it's free or not. We're here to receive the report and sanction it or not.
So the bigger question for me is about how is this going to address the all too frequent cancelled flights? That's the danger of this, because if that continues, and we've heard the reassurances from New Zealand, once we get this, the bigger runway will be able to have more resilience, whatever. Well, we'll see, but I mean, the serious question will be asked if it turns out that doesn't improve whatsoever, and people will vote with their feet, and that will not be climbing onto a plane at an exorbitant prices that New Zealand charge. It'll be hopping in the car and driving over Christchurch.
Exactly.
That's the big danger.
Through the chair, we'll address low-level lighting and poorer condition landings, particularly around that runway up there at the moment. It's got big goalies in it, it's got big water troughs sitting down the side of the land. Air New Zealand's or whoever's business operation and things is very hard for us. We can just supply a good product.
Yes, but your worship, we all know, of course, that that's the weather was the excuse that's used every time that those flights are cancelled. And half the time the sun is shining brightly. It's nothing to do with the weather. It's nothing to do with anything else. But that is a New Zealand matter. But if it doesn't improve, there'll be consequences.
And we are having conversations with Air New Zealand, and by no means are we the airport that's suffering the worst of cancelled flights. There are two other airports in New Zealand that are suffering for more than us. But unfortunately also the planes that come here fly into Christchurch from other places, and if they don't arrive in Christchurch, then we don't get the plane here, and that accounts for a fair whack of those cancellations too. So, so it's an ongoing conversation of surety from Air New Zealand, and taking that on board, and we've got more conversations with them going forward. So, I appreciate the point.
It'd be good to review it in 12 months' time.
Yep.
Measure what the improvement has been.
Absolutely. So with that, I'm after Reverend Secretary so we can resolve that the report from LV received regarding the Hukati Airport upgrade. Oh, sorry, Jane.
To review it in 12 months' time, it'd be really interesting to know now how many, especially along the lines of medical staff, which would benefit the whole community, how many of those ones do drive over now because of the unreliability of the planes? We hear about
It's the reliability, it's the flexibility as well, right? If you want to drive, you've got to park your car there, you've got to fly there, get a car and you're in Christchurch, whereas you can leave your house anytime you like, 3 hours later you're in Christchurch. Right?
I think it's reliability that makes them generally go to the charge option, but yeah.
Yeah, noted with that, and then part of the work we did putting this project together was we did make contact, Joe and I made contact with the medical fraternity, the mining and dairy company and others that use the airport to see what percentage of business they take into cars as opposed to the airport. So that was also a good factor on.
So we've got quite definitive figures.
Well, we did at the time putting that together.
Where was the DHB with that?
Quite high. They bring in private jets at times to bring medical people in here. So yeah, it's we've got to get there first. Let's get the airport extension done, and because that's what they're waiting for is that. But primarily, if they can increase their utilisation of that, then they will. That also comes down to a little bit of rescheduling their timeframes as well to meet with the flights and overnight stays. Councillor Gillette?
Thank you through the chair. Just in the report, section 3.3 refers to a committee being formed to oversee the project consisting of council, staff, DW, etc. Can we have clarity on that?
This is still to be set up. It's myself, Worship, it'll be Melanie Anderson, as airport executive, and other members as required, but at least it's important to sign.
So the intention is with that is that we muscle down from the team that put the project together, and that we meet regularly to sit over the project, and then we will be bringing those updates back to the full council so that you're well aware of where it's at, any concerns, any red flags or anything else going forward. Because it is quite a complex structure that we're entering into as far as managing it with the Air New Zealand and CAA, as well as the contractors and everything else. So,
Through the chair, the project itself is relatively simple. It's a very large asphalt overlay. It's some construction at either end of the runway and surface lane. It's installing the lights, it's installing some power cables and a generator, and some drainage works and site cleanup. It's the scope, it's the size of the project that makes it expensive, not necessarily complexity. And working around the live airport makes it slightly different.
Councillor Neil.
Just, we talked a lot about resilience. How guaranteed are we that the runway is going to survive AFA?
There's no guarantees on anything.
And so then how does it get repaired? And does it get repaired back to what we've got now, or what we're looking at having?
Sold as the Jackson.
I think that's potentially a different discussion. This is about the report, and we can't answer that, Jane, because we don't know what sort of damage the AFA is going to do when it does go, and what that's going to look like. So it's hypothetical.
Generally, on the table site where it is and what it's constructed of, it's not a concrete runway, it's a flexible pavement surface. So generally, they get repaired a lot easier.
So less damage and quicker repairs?
Potentially, it depends on how much force, but potentially less damage because it is flexible and easy to repair.
Councillor Gillett, I'll take this as the last.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair. Sorry, that will be my last question. I think Earl confirmed that the airport is actually owned by the council, so presumably we currently depreciate it. I'm assuming that the upgrade will enhance the value, increase the value of the airport, so there will be an increase in ratepayer contribution to the depreciation of that new improved asset. So there will be a slight increase in ratepayer cost in the long term.
We may own it, but it is owned through the airport company. We do not pay the airport company any monies in management fees. There's no depreciation rated through council. It's not on our asset register, it's in the CCO asset register.
Okay, but there'll be a different depreciation question going forward.
Okay. All right, moving on. So can I have a move and a second to please resolve that the report be received? Thank you, Councillor Manera, Councillor Davidson.
Yep.
Thank you very much. All in favour? Carried. And just on the tail end of that, I would actually like to formally acknowledge both Alicia and Kate downstairs, Mel Anderson from the airport, Alan McGibbon as advisor, Earl, who tolerated a room full of women through the whole project, and what he's pulled together with this was phenomenal because the pressure was on for time frame. And then Jo, who also pulled this together, she finessed the documentation, she liaised with Kanoa, and she picked up any gaps that were there. And we went over the final documentation, I don't know how many times to ensure we were all comfortable with the wording and that we hadn't missed anything or we'd overly covered anything off as well. So it really was a team effort, and I'm very grateful to everybody. Because I did sit on everybody pretty hard with that going forward. It was time against us, and precision of detail was certainly an expectation within it. So I just would like to acknowledge everybody, Bill, and your team. Thank you.
Alan McGibbon, thank you.
And Alan.
If you're watching. And just also the endorsements, it needs to cover the endorsements.
Yes. Yes, and thank Kanawa too, and Develop West Coast for their contribution to all the ports on the coast.
It's a really exciting project. I don't think Fred Miller would have to go through these issues when he moved it from the south side up to the.
Okay, yep. So just before we move off that, the other thing we have to do is endorse the preferred option, which Earl's got noted there, which is the 1.2 is the preferred option to resurface the main runway with asphalt, upgrading runway lighting to energy efficient systems, establishing emergency backup power and extending the starter extensions to improve operational safety and flexibility. The second part is noting that the project is fully funded through 9.8 million suspensory loan from the Regional Infrastructure Fund and a $6.6 million suspensory loan from Develop West Coast with no cost to council or ratepayers. The third stage of this is confirming the governance and delivery arrangements, including council's oversight role through the project governance group and the appointment of a principal representative to manage delivery on council's behalf. And we acknowledge the request that regular updates be provided to council through the delivery phase to ensure visibility of progress, risks and outcomes. So can I take it that the mover and seconder will also cover those, the endorsement and acknowledge those points? Thank you very much, gentlemen. Everybody's in favour of that? No, I just did acknowledge Kanawa and as well. Thank you everybody for that.
I'll vote against 9.2 if it's all right. The endorsement of the preferred option.
You want to record that you don't support that?
No.
Right, do you know? This is not support. Point 1.2. Just to make it clear that's what 1.2 only. 1.2 only, Patrick.
9.2.
Yep. Okay. So next on the agenda is the council headquarters, and for that we hand over to Barb, please, to speak to her report, which is page 59 on the agenda.
Thank you. Can I just?
What did he say then?
Sorry.
Well, I think it is a collective sigh, isn't it? It's been a long gestation period for this process. When I arrived, there was many and varied views about where the headquarters should be, and so I'll just refresh the fact that what I've tried to do in this paper with the team is get us into a frame where the outcome is we get to a definitive decision, whatever that decision is. And to do that, what I've proposed to do is I've put a paper up today that gathers the strands that we have had to date and done some SWOT analysis of the options that are being in front of you. What I'd like to propose is, and I didn't expect that we would go through those and try and get to a decision today, what I'm proposing is that the one area which is incomplete in my mind, and I'm happy to get direction from the council on this, is that we did have option 3, which was where the Piki Tower building was cleared, but there was a concept brief put to the council, I believe, it was before my arrival, but was declined for the council to proceed because of the size and cost, etc. I would like to propose that probably of all of the options that I've seen put in front of me with the team, a renewed option 3, but with a much more scaled down simple would provide us with a full picture of all of the options that we have in front of us. So I've put this paper up to bring everybody onto the same page that we have with the options. Option 3 is
63.
Sorry. Option 3 is written on page 62 and 63. Demolish Paki Waitara and build a new council headquarters. When that was referred to in this paper, that was your original concept. It was a rather large investment in terms of the building and what the contents would look like, and I believe the council declined to proceed with that option. What I'd like to say is to bring a paper back to the council now after a period of time where things have progressed. What I believe would be a full picture would be to re-energise option 3, but have a concept that isn't such an expensive and large expanse of a building, but a much more suitable sized building for the future, for the headquarters. And to do so, what I propose is that I allocate a budget of up to 5K to actually get a concept of what that would look like, which would also support some of the conversations that's happened with the LTP submissions around, are there another option for that? And then put the options back together, and that would be where I would seek a definitive decision of do nothing or any of these options or anything else that council might like to put forward. But I feel that I haven't provided a full picture, and if I hadn't done a renewed option 3 with a much more reasonable option in terms of a simple building for the council here. So I'm seeking direction as to whether you would find it as an acceptable process, knowing that this is almost like the foundational document, and then we would bring together a simple concept, refresh the paper, bring it forward for the next, I think we can do it for the next meeting. If not, then definitely the meeting after that, and that's where we would seek a direction from council as to where
Through your worship, so what about the questions that were raised last week? Discussion. For instance, the government building, where we asked for an independent assessment of how much it would cost to fit out the interior of that building rather than the back of the cigarette packet, $10 million that was quoted in here. It doesn't seem to be having guts to it. The summary here doesn't say anything about the potential of, like the government building, the potential for a rental holiday.
for a rental
Holiday.
Oh, I see, yes, I see what you mean, because this
paper
paper was essentially based on those options that you mentioned previously. Well, I think through the chair, I think what would be most useful, rather than just trying to do a drip feed and renew option B, we should look at the whole paper and bring it up and incorporate any suggestions or, I guess, theories that have come up through the LTP or as yourself, and refresh around the heritage buildings, etc. I'd be happy to make sure that was all part of it, so you have a current picture of everything.
Yes, I don't disagree with you on that, but but you did say before that your preference was to revisit option 3, which is to demolish the Waikato and build something new, fresh across the road. I'm not opposed to that, and raising this thing from that memory bank would be a great idea. But it does sound a little predetermined, but as opposed to what we only discussed last week, only a week ago, which was, well, let's have a stand back, let's get some actual facts around this, because we have again, in relation to the government building there was Heritage New Zealand was only covering the exterior, the interior was entirely up to us, etc. And that there were heritage features that had to be adhered to with whoever the tenant is. But we don't know this for a fact, but we need to sit down.
So we'd like to firm it up. Yeah.
So that's what this request.
It is, yeah. I'm sorry, that might have been my framing of that, because I hadn't really caught up with all of the conversations from last week. But I'm more than happy that the paper that you get will be the most current information on all of the options, and then you can then make your directional view from there. I'm more than happy for that to happen. That's the whole purpose of trying to get this into a space where you can actually feel fully informed. So I don't have a problem with that.
And if I can too, it's the current situation on page 62, it does actually cover that all those options are what we're looking at currently. It's not actually making a predetermined decision on that option, it's actually lists the 4 of them there, as the agenda, as being the current options, and then with a greater breakdown.
I did see that, Your Worship, but the Chief Executive just said that.
I didn't say it in the way that would
The
reflect
option,
that. So that was my
she can
opinion.
see is bold over and rebuilt, and that's fine, that may well be the best option. But that's like a different take on what we discussed only 7 days ago.
And I think, as we said, that's probably because I was keen to make sure that was the updated one to bring to your attention. So no problem with catching up with the other ones, that's fine.
Just through the chair. If we build across the road, we're going to miss out on the sale price. We've got to pay to get all the waste down. And then we've got a section to build on that's probably not reduced one either. So there's a lot of costs here even before we start.
And we've got another old building to sell as well, which is the current problem that we've got. Yeah.
And this is the discussion that I believe needs to happen when you have the most current information in front of you. My driver of this is, we need at some point, I believe, for the council to make a decision, a definitive decision. As time moves past, costs keep going up, it becomes further and further away. I have no predetermined idea about what your preferred position is. I'm agnostic on that view, but what I would like to do is make sure we have all the information on which to do that, and we'll make sure that we highlight those points. And I think we have to a certain degree, Brian, but I'm happy that we make sure we have it.
Right. So can we start by having a workshop or something with Heritage New Zealand so we actually know? Paul, would you be keen?
Well, those conversations can happen, but bear in mind, Bob and I were away last week at an airport thing as well as in Wellington to talk to ministers. So it's part of the work process that we've got going ahead with to get these figures. So we're happy to have that conversation. It's been also battling time.
There's no support this paper.
Yeah, I know, that's what we had to do.
And through the chair, we do have to act relatively quickly because Leslie has got to sort it for
Yes,
long-term plan.
plan.
Whether that building's getting sold or we're looking at building.
That's
So we
good.
do need to do it relatively quick and make a firm decision.
Okay, Councillor Kessler's the last.
Happy to support you with use of 5,000 as long as it's going to lead towards a more refined price on what that would look like, given we've got a 5 million and a $10 million option, which will both describe as PO bonds, somewhere in the middle, mainland real price, so they both might be, as Paul was said, back into the repacks, and there's a great risk exchange in this space. Or assuming one of those two may be correct or not.
Within the balance of what we can do, we'll make sure that is.
Would we be up for sharing the building with the department?
I don't see why that we wouldn't consider that. It's just we've now nailed down what the occupancy requirements would be for the council, which was a little vague previously, I believe. So perhaps that's something we can also feed into it. We can also feed into it if you would like to have a discussion with the Heritage Group as part of that. I'm happy to facilitate that through meetings that would like to. Happy to talk through that.
All right, okay. So, the resolution is that the council headquarters report be received, and I'd move into second, please. Councillor Burdon, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Councillor Layson, thank you very much. All in favour? Right, moving on to Earl, please, the West Coast Regional Waste Minimisation and Management Plan update and adoption. Be put forward, thank you.
Good afternoon, councillors. I'll take the report as read and accept. Any questions or queries?
Questions? Words of clarification?
Just through the chair, just please remember that this is not an operational document. It's a document that outlines concepts and ideas and a plan of items to be going forward to look at waste management as an entirety across the region, not necessarily what operational activities we will be undertaking, because there's a large amount of cost to some of these items. Luckily, I would say luckily for us, the central government's withdrawn on the food scraps waste project that they were going to put us in, and that was going to cost $1.4 million a month. So that's quite, quite a good item not to have to do. Not that I don't think we should do it. It's just the quantity we have and how to service that quantity costs the same amount. 500 tonnes a year as it does for 5,000 tonnes a year. So some of these items are particularly problematic. I noted in the report that I don't think particularly our communication standards and what we're presenting to the community as a whole are at a good level. We should promote stuff more and advertise more to upgrade things on our website. And put look at either advertising or promotion of what's actually available. This year we've got curbside glass coming in under our contract, which is it's a good thing. It's take out 100 ton roundabout of glass, potentially. So, yeah, that's, else you want to.
The curbside collection of food scraps, as we previously discussed though, is just such a mad idea that, I mean, just if you look at one council up north, I don't know.
Auckland and Ray, I think they've all pulled out because they can't make it work.
Yeah, it's horrendous. And the thing the danger here is that, change of government and how it bounces back at us. So other than that, I think this is the best. And I just think collaboration is the way forward on this one, and I'm all for it.
Thank you, Paul. Councillor Pearson?
Purely administratively, in the report, 9.1 reads good option, there's option 2, ideally that should read option 1. And if that's right, then move it and the rest. Oh, yes. Apologies, trivial, but yes, with that corrected, happy to move it.
I'll just, Councillor Neil's had a hand up for questions, I'll take that and then we'll move to the
Yeah, just like to say, I think education is huge, and talk about green waste, it's a huge problem, and maybe that wasn't the right way to deal with it, but maybe education is.
Green waste we pretty much handle, which is garden
Compost
waste.
waste.
Compost waste we handle with kitchen waste is the thing that's actually.
But the more education we can do around everything we have going.
I agree.
So the resolution is that council receive the report, that council adopt the amended draft waste minimisation and management plan, and that council instruct staff to review current waste and recycling information available, undertake to improve knowledge to the community, and this would include publicising the difference in service provision between the various communities and why, work with incumbent and new waste management contractors to align services where possible across the whole district in a cost-effective manner, and work with central government agencies to improve service provision and maximise financial support. Councillor Casson has moved it. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Phelps, thank you very much. All in favour? Yes. Carried. Thank you. Thanks all for that report. Re-adoption of terms of reference, consenting the compliance committee. Above, over to you.
I would think this is a fairly straightforward process. This was something that was, I believe, adopted by the council, and I don't know the full history of it, but I committed to bringing it back to the council for re-adoption. I haven't made any changes to the terms of reference that we've got there. It's up to the council whether they wish to reinstate this as a compliance committee, is my understanding, with these terms of reference. Is that correct?
Yep. Right. Everybody's read the report? Paul?
Just a question, Your Worship, why under purpose, like point 4 was highlighted.
Oh, I think that was no, I think, Doug, we talked about this, yellow highlight, sorry, on the terms of reference, number 1. Was that we previously highlighted it previously?
I'm sorry.
I thought it was, but it was.
Number 4 wasn't there, it was a contentious piece.
There's no need for it to be highlighted now.
It's an additional.
I think it's an addition change, that's what we've said.
Yes.
It's resolved by council previously.
Yes.
The highlights, the 2 yellow highlights.
Yes, because that was the whole run. The point of setting up this committee is to provide forums for, that doesn't exist for.
But it would if you will put these back in, is what I assumed.
Yes.
So we left it at that so that people were aware. I'm sorry, we could have taken the colouring off, but it seemed like they've just highlighted it.
Highlighted to bring attention to things.
That's good, I thought.
Which is what a highlight should do, so it did its job, really.
Yes, I was hoping it wasn't heavily query.
So thank you both for that. So I think everybody's crystal clear on that because we've discussed this many a time before.
Can you just clarify if that was amended earlier, or, because down here it's got amended 29th of May?
But then what happens when someone amends the amendment?
Councillor Carey and amended by 29th of May.
Through you, Chair, so the two refunds have previously been to council. Council made some amendments. Those amendments are in yellow and they've come back for re-adoption to be confirmed by council today.
Thanks for clarifying that, Diane. Thank you. So I ask to move for a second, please, and resolve that the report be received, that council adopt the amended terms of reference for the consent and compliance committee.
Happy to move it and just hope it's not a month before that committee meets.
Thank you, councillor Phelps. Thank you. Right, next on the agenda is the administrative resolution, warrant of appointment, Andrew Gilmore and Ayesh Yadav, as one is enforcement officer, the other one is noise control officer, and Catherine Ogilvie as RMA compliance officer. As noted, you will have this. I'm after a movement second to please, and resolve that council confirm its seal with being affixed to the documents underwritten under those appointments. Movement second to please, councillor Casson, thank you. Councillor Beard, thank you very much. All in favour?
Aye.
Yes. Carried. Thank you very much, everybody. Yep. And then on the late agenda items, again, with administrative resolution only. The warrant of appointment for Jason Warden as another noise control officer and Adonisha Squires, also under the same umbrella. They were late agenda items, so again, I'm just asking for a movement of second to resolve that council confirm the seal can be affixed to cover those two officers. Can I move for second, councillor Vanera? Thank you very much. Seconder, councillor Burden. Thank you very much. All in favour? Yes. Carried. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for that. Right, and now we go into a resolution to go into the public excluded section of the meeting. Resolution is that we move into the public excluded section at 2:15 p.m. Do I have a movement to seconder, please? Councillor Beard, thank you very much. Councillor Neal, thank you very much. I'd like to thank the members of the public for viewing the live stream and all those in attendance that are here. We will now go and adjourn for 2 minutes to allow the Zoom to disconnect. Stephen, I ask that you just stay on your Zoom. We'll reconnect up with you. Yeah, you have to redo it, he knows that, but he just, won't lose it, disappear. And we'll be back in 2 minutes with that.